Welcome to Contact Has Begun, brought to you by the grace of the World Puja Network, one of the last vestiges of truth concerning benevolent, spiritually, and technologically advanced off-world visitors. Some refer to these visitors as our greater family of man or returning ancient ancestors. I am James Gillen, your host, and our guests also include cutting-edge physicists, authors, teachers, and healers dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth. Let the journey begin. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to World Puja. We've got another great show for you today. There are so many things happening on this planet. I can't think of a better person to cover some of this, and I hope I'm. Let me see here. Actually, what's really interesting, I'm hoping I'm not going to mispronounce his name, but we've got George Kavassilas.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it right the second time, George Kavassilas.
Kavassilas, aha, okay. Yeah, it's an interesting name there. I can't even say my own last name right. But anyway, George was to have an experience that changed everything. His galactic family visited him, picked him up, and took him to a large ship situated closer to the Sirius Star System. They facilitated an experience which saw George take a journey with his conscious spirit up through the dimensions of our universe. He was able to rediscover what life here in this universe is all about. He was able to once again know who we all are, where we came from, and where we're headed. So with that, welcome to the show, George.
Thank you, James. It really is an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, you too as well. We might as well just do a quick synopsis of the beginning. It says that you had an experience in the very beginning as a young child with some of these off-world visitors.
Yeah, it goes back to around the age of 5, is as far back as I can remember. I feel within my being, though, that I was having experiences prior to that. And the one that I quite remember at the age of 5 was quite pronounced. It was, I was taken by beings that we call greys, and they prodded and probed me and did lots of experiments. But the unusual thing is when I got put back into my bed, because I was so stricken with fear, I was only a little child, it was a cold night as well, and for what reason I don't know, they didn't put the covers back onto my bed, and I was just lying there, and I was not only paralysed by the energy that they used to paralyse you with, but also with fear, and also started to get really stiff from the cold, and it ended up, it took me a while, about an hour, to be released from that energy and have the motivation or the will to actually move. And then I stood in front of my mum, and I wanted to go and wake her up, and I couldn't. And it's like that energy, because they work on your will. That's how they demobilise you from doing anything. And I wanted to wake my mum up, but I couldn't, so I stood there frozen. And eventually she woke up about 2 minutes later. Thank goodness for a mum's intuition. Yeah. And she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, they took me again, Mum." And she said, "Oh, you just had a bad dream. That's the usual reaction." And when we went back to the bedroom, there was no sheets, no covers, so we had to get a whole new set out. And that was a little bit weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds a little bizarre. So that was some of the first ones were kind of malevolent and not your friendly types.
No, yeah, these ones were not friendly type, no. They used to give me quite a hard time in that bedroom. I used to tremble with fear. My heart used to just about pound out of my chest. And my mum would be washing the dishes in the kitchen, and I'd be going to bed at about 8 o'clock at night when I was a little kid, and my heart would be pounding out of my chest, and I'd be trembling with fear, and because they would turn up in the room. Yeah.
I noticed that that's kind of a common theme. It seems like that people will actually have, an encounter with the dark forces or whatever first, even not just the ETs, but other forces too. And it's like some kind of a test or something that you have to overcome. And then after you're through with that, then you hook up with the more benevolent beings.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I haven't quite viewed it from that perspective before. That's really good.
Yeah. So anyway, so you transcended that experience and you started hooking in with the higher dimensional beings. Do you remember what some of these beings look like? Can you give any kind of description of their outer appearances, you might say?
Are you referring to the more benevolent beings now?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when my galactic family picked me up, for example, they were just people like you and I. They were slightly different. There are slight differences between other human forms, humanoid forms, and Earth humans. But all in all, they're quite, if you were just walking down the street and one walked past you, you probably wouldn't take too much notice of them. But their energy is very pleasant. It's it's not imposing. And they have this incredible ability just to understand you completely. And because they know you intimately. I mean, this was galactic family, so there was no showering with love and light and all that sort of business. There was none of that. It was just a beautiful, graceful, deep sense of knowing and understanding.
Yeah, it seems interesting that they seem to be able to read you in a moment and know your whole story and basically what you need on an inner level to know. It's amazing connecting with these higher beings. Yeah,
they do know. And, and it's interesting when the more time you spend with them, the more time you spend out of the matrix. Depends on the experience that you're having with them. And sometimes your awareness really expands and you get that remembrance and you go back to that, you begin to go back to that state of being, of having that grander awareness of things. And then everybody's on the same level and you just remember everything about everything. It's amazing.
You don't fit in the matrix anymore after that.
Oh, it's hard. Then you've got to come back into the pea soup and and try and function. And that's where I found it difficult because I was having some amazing experiences as a teenager, and then I'd have to come back in class the next day and sit and do a boring science class. And I used to just occasionally just present something which was outside of the curriculum, and I would be clamped down on very, very hard, very fast, and the teachers didn't like me because I suppose I probably made the right comments and asked the right questions.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was in college, the same thing. My philosophy teacher wanted me out of there, and the psychology teacher wanted me gone, and both the chemistry teacher too actually told me. Yeah. He told me, I don't know why you're even going to try to finish this class. He said, because I'm going to give you an F anyway, no matter what. So you might as well just leave now. Oh. I go, what are you talking about? Like I'm getting great scores and everything else. But he was so ticked off at me because, he had the periodic chart out, and everything else, and saying, this is how it is. This is what everything's made of. And I kept saying, well, who made that? Where did that come from? And I kept asking questions like, well, who designed this? This is so amazing. Yeah, how it all comes together. Somebody designed this. I mean, it's just so beyond imagination. And that was when he told me I was a disruptor, and I might as well not even come back to the class anymore.
Yeah, definitely a threatened ego there.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing with the philosophy class and the psychology class. I kept challenging him there, and I would say, you have these people that are deathly afraid of water, and they've been living on the interior. They haven't even been to a beach or anything, and they don't even swim. They're just. I said, where does that come from? It's like it didn't. They have no childhood trauma to deal with this, or other things, that freak them out. And I go, that came from another prior experience before this life, and they got upset about that one as well. So. I'm sure you ask a lot of the same questions because this matrix, this program we're in right now, does not add up. It's so limited in such a small box.
Yeah, and that includes the study of the DNA, and people say, no, we've only got 2 strands, and I'm saying, no, we've actually got 12, and people don't realize that the whole world of science is under a very strict quarantine, and humanity is only seeing what it's being allowed to see through the technology that it's actually given. So yes, we're very creative and we're quite resourceful, and even though we get given certain technologies, the powers that were continuously trying to maintain a status quo within the world of science as well. So what they refer to as junk DNA is actually DNA strand or DNA codes that are interacting with outer strands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the same thing. I worked with a German biophysicist for 7 years, and he said that each strand, when it's activated, actually has attributes that come with it, like telepathy and direct knowing and being able to go forward or backward in time, and even the salamander gene where you heal, you can regrow an arm and things of that nature, but they're just dormant.
Yeah. Yeah, and also they serve as archetypes as well. Each strand is one of the 12 archetypes, so they perform many functions on many levels. It's really exciting when you start to remember exactly what life's about.
Yeah, the fun part is trying to bring it back into this program.
Oh yeah, that's why I called it the pea soup, because it is really. I mean, I've had so many experiences, and my recall is just threads and fragments, but I've had so many, so it's given me those points of reference are with me, and it's given me a really good understanding of what's going on. Yeah.
There's as far as what is going on, I mean, we could probably turn this into a 3-hour show, but I would love to hear what your take is on basically I always tell people the landing's already happened. It's in the soul. So many ETs have incarnated right now, and everybody's waiting for the big metal ship to come down. And they missed the bigger picture. But as far as all of that's going on, how do you see the different groups, maybe their intentions and how they're interacting with humanity and the Earth right now?
Yeah, well, before I get into that, because of my perspective, I would, if you don't mind me saying, I just want to let people know that my experiences are quite varied, and I have my perspective on things. And so if I say something that really pushes people's boundaries, I mean it, without any ill intent, of course, and it's just my perspective. So, because there are a lot of things going on in this world and around our world at the moment, which I will actually go ahead and say that I actually do have the eyes to see through what's going on. And I really, what you said before, that it's in our soul, I totally agree with that. People don't realise that, everybody's waiting for these incredible light beings to turn up, and it's actually us. We're already here. And, we've come to take responsibility for that which we have created, which is a massive collective group of beings of very high wisdom who have come up with this plan to help bring people out of the lower domains of the universe. And we've been managing this for a very, very long time. And so we're all here taking responsibility. Some people call us the spiritual hierarchy. There's all sorts of labels floating around out there, but we're all here, James. And it's important for people not to sit back and wait for somebody else to come along and save them. That's a big trap that people are falling into. And, there's a lot of channelings and things at the moment on the internet. And the biggest message that I give to people at the moment is to no longer externalise, because all the beings of the higher domains that I've been in contact with all encourage us to utilise what we have within us. And so meditating and bringing light into us from outside of us, especially at this stage of the game, for me is a no-no. It's really about bringing our inner light out and starting to shine who and what we truly are, and reclaiming our sovereignty. And, that comes to wordiness issues. We habitually want to externalise. It is habitual. And it's to go in and bring our light out and to use that for healings and to use that for everything. We kind of feel funny about that. And it took me a while to overcome those blocks as well. And that program, it's a program as well that's in our mind. So, yeah, I really recommend people to be very careful about when you're doing meditations and working with other beings, if they're continually urging you to use their light and external lights for getting things done, then I would question that. Because all the beings of the higher domains that I've been in touch with say, don't use our light, use your light. You've got the whole universe within you.
Yeah.
Do it yourself.
Well, I agree. I agree with that 100%. That's always been our premise here, is to empower each individual to make their own personal, God, creator, spirit connection. And there's so much information out there that you can just get lost in all the channelings, and they're so contradictory. Yeah. And one of the ones I take a little exception to is that there's people out there giving everybody the feel-good message, telling everybody nothing's going to happen. There's going to be no earth changes. We sang our songs. We did this. We went up there and activated a vortex or whatever. And so everything is fixed. Everything is done. Nothing to worry about. And then all hell breaks loose. Then the big quake or the tsunami or the war breaks out. Immediately afterwards. And without any egg on their face, they go to the next the next message without even owning up to the fact that maybe the first message might have been a little bit off.
Yeah, it's very important not to live in a fool's paradise. And there's a very while I'm very I understand unconditional love, and I'm a very loving man, a very loving being, and respectful man. There's actually a serious side to what's going on here. And so, like I said, it's important not to get stuck into that fool's paradise. And there's a lot of these beings that want to, I would say, mislead and lure people in a very gentle way. They do it in a very sophisticated way. And they're very good at what they do. I mean, let's just take a step back and have a look at what's going on here. Here you have a planet that's about to give birth to a whole race of universal creators of love and light. And who's going to want to stop that from happening, And you just got to realize what's actually going on here. And so you've got beings that have evolved over eons and eons and eons of evolution in the universe, and they are very powerful from one perspective, right, from inside the drama. They're very powerful beings because you got to give credit where it's due. And they're very clever, they're very intelligent, and they have become very sophisticated. And so if we are inside a universe and we're about to graduate, then aren't we going to be tested with the best the universe has to offer? And so people just got to realize how clever these systems and the sophistications of the manipulation is that's occurring and being implemented onto the human race. It's far greater than people realize.
I agree. And, it seems to all be aimed at the first three chakras, survival, sex, and power. And everything's outer, love, acceptance, approval. Everything's based on outer appearances, outer joy, outer bliss, from some external force, versus getting up into the heart chakra, and just truly loving and accepting yourself and becoming one with that and becoming sovereign with that. This whole other program is, as you're saying, very seductive, and it's very clever, and it's very hard to step out of that pea soup and take a real hard look at it with brutal honesty.
Yeah, and the way we look at our world too, we have what we would call the ruling elite, for example, and so we have this veil, this planetary veil of suppression and oppression on the human race. But what people don't realise that it's actually being orchestrated from off-world, and so we not only have a planetary control structure, we also have a cosmic control structure. And so when we hear people like David Icke mention this problem, reaction, solution, which I think is brilliant, people don't realise that problem, reaction, solution is not just a planetary thing, it's actually a cosmic thing. And so the ETs that are coming to save us are the ones who are actually creating the problems here behind the scenes. They're the ones pulling the strings to create an environment which is so undesirable on Earth that all people can think of is getting out of here. And so when they come to offer a helping hand and a way out, they'll flock to it like a child takes the candy. And, they've swung this reality into such a, if you look at it from a pendulum point of view, they're swinging it deep into the negative side So, they can come along with their positive agenda and look like the good guys. Because, what we deem as positive, a lot of people think positivity and love and light on the positive side of things is actually above and beyond negativity and dark. And it's actually not. It's actually just across from it. We're talking about that version of duality. And so people don't realise how positive white, light and love are going to be used against us. And that's the thing I'm trying to bring to people's awareness and attention. And we have many extraterrestrial races that we're being exposed to at the moment. And they come from paradigms which are so large. You can, honestly, you've probably heard the term a parallel universe. Well, these are domains that are so big. They're vibratory realms, vibratory domains. And like on this planet, we have worlds within worlds. You can, like I, for example, am not aware of what's going on in the world of ballet because I don't put my awareness and my attention there. So I'm not in that world, in that paradigm. Well, it's important to realise that even though we coexist side by side, there are paradigms out there on a cosmic level that have been created over eons of time, and they're beings that sit at the top of these paradigms. And that they have, and this is what I saw when I took that journey up through the dimensions of our universe, okay? This is what I got to see, where things fit. And, this is going to sound pretty amazing to some people, pretty shocking as well. But when you are in the lower aspects of these domains and you look up, you will actually see angelic hierarchies and you will see creator gods at the top of these paradigms. And there are thousands of extraterrestrial races that have actually been indoctrinated and assimilated into these empires. Now, that's their journey, their soul journey. But it's very important, just because a being comes from off-world doesn't mean they know everything. The moment you're in contact with an extraterrestrial race, you've got to realise that they're coming from their paradigm, whatever paradigm that is. And so the thing to begin to ask is, what's their cultural philosophy? Where does it come from? And their spiritual teachings. And ask them questions. Really, ask them questions. And you'll soon get to realise by the way they react, if there is a reaction, the way the content that they shared, and pretty much I would say the counsel that they give you. Then you can just feel into it and see what resonates with you. And that's my suggestion, because once I got past these other paradigms which I just spoke of, you get to reality. You get to vibrational patterns which are one with the universe and one with life. And all the beings out there in these other paradigms know exactly who we are, know what we're doing here, and know what we're about to become. And we are held in the highest of esteem, the highest regard, and as far as they're concerned, we are all heroes because we are the way showers. And, a lot of other beings did not have the courage to embark on this journey that we're embarking on, which is the road to compression and integrating all our fragmentation back into oneness and harmony.
Yeah, I often ask myself, why I signed up for this, and there's every once in a while I just go, what am I doing here? Like, what the heck am I doing here? And if there's days, if there was a ship parked out in my front yard, I would be on it and out of here, and I'll come back in 2015 or something. But it is pretty interesting. Some of the basic things that I learned in the TIC, they call it the Teachings of the Inner Christ, which is a blend of Babaji and Jesus, or East and West. And this was about, 30 years ago, is they taught some very, very important base foundational teachings. And one is, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened. The other one was, how to heal unseen negative influences and move them out of your space, and how to discern faker spirits that come in and act like they're masters or teachers or things like that. But if they don't empower you to make your own personal connection with Creator or Spirit or God, whatever you want to name you want to give it, then you should really seriously question them and then break off communication if they aren't empowering you as an individual to make your own personal God connection. And one of the things they warn about a lot is these faker spirits would use flattery, and they would tell you that you're the chosen one and that you're this and that, and they would actually create a division, an ego division, that you're the one and you're going to do it and you're going to turn this planet around. And people just suck that up here. It's amazing, and I think that's such a strong foundation that I was given 30 years ago. It's helped me to survive all these other experiences I've had.
That's so well said, James, because I personally experienced that myself when I got up in 2004 and I said, here I am, I'm a member of the Galactic Federation of Light, and everything's going to be fine. We're going to take care of you. We're going to save you. We're going to look after you and all that. And I was being manipulated, and it took me a while to, get through that. It was a very painful time in my life because on one level I felt great humiliation and shame that I actually stood up and I did that. And it's important for people to understand that there is, they feed off our egos and our yearning. It's basically this yearning that we have. And even though it was after my incredible journey I took up in 2003, when I got back, just to preface it just quickly again, I'll go back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was shining, after a journey like that, your energy changes. So all of a sudden I stuck out like a beacon in the matrix. Mm-hmm. So I got their attention, and they were abducting me basically close to 2 to 3 times per week. And they worked on me very hard to basically remove any remembrance or remnants of that journey and assimilate me into their structures. And so therefore, knowing that I had those experiences for a reason and that I felt a sense of obligation to share my wisdom, they manipulated that. And so they had me propagating their agenda and propaganda rather than me sharing my true wisdom. And like I said, it took me a while, but I finally realized what I'd done, and it's a blessing in disguise because I've experienced it from the inside. And I can stand up and say, hey, this is what they do. But first of all, they know how to use our love against us, and they'll make you feel important. And it really just comes down to, I'm getting up and speaking now because it's responsibility, a sense of obligation and responsibility towards my human family, and that's all it is. And it's not because me, I'm special. And even when I do my talks, James, I say to people at the end, if you're going to clap, don't clap at me. Actually turn around and clap to each and every one of yourselves, because you're all heroes here. We're all heroes here. So, I'm not interested in feeding off that adulation. It's about acknowledgement for everybody.
Yeah, it's quite, I've seen people just suck that energy up, and yeah. They'll be out there and they'll give everybody the feel-good message, and they'll tell you that everybody's going to save you. They're going to come in and we're all going to, hold hands and sing Kumbaya and ascend together. And don't worry about, any preparation whatsoever, Yeah. You don't really have to go back and clean up your past or heal your old wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experience and all that stuff, because, it's all going to be done for you. But meantime, the Earth is going through her phase and her healing process. And I tell them, you got to pay attention to every level. You got to drop into your heart, get out of your mind, and connect to the Earth and listen to where she's going, to make it through these changes.
Yeah, our beloved Mother Earth. What an incredible woman. And that's the thing that's really, I would say, probably affected me more than anything in all of my journeys, is rediscovering who she is. And that really has touched me, and I still shed tears often these days. I just finished an Australian tour, and whenever I had to speak of Mother Earth and the things that she's done and what I consider the true sacrifice of the Christ, it just, I get very emotional. And it really, really for a being to have volunteered to manifest herself as a planet that was, that she knew she was going to be beaten and raped and tortured and burned at the stake and plundered and pillaged for such a long time, and her body contorted by beings using technology to twist and contort her magnetic fields and energy lines, and on and on it goes. I mean, talk about courage and talk about unconditional love. So people have forgotten that. I mean, first of all, we exist here because of her. That's, the basic construct of life is what everyone's forgotten. I mean, you're breathing the air right in this moment. Whose air are you breathing? Hello? Whose water are you drinking and whose food are you eating? I mean, yeah, that's the very basic.
Whose body are you in?
Whose body are you in? Exactly.
yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
I think of the same thing. I just go, my God, what we've done to her and what we're still doing to her. And we think we're separate, but I mean, she gave us this body. This body comes from her, and basically, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, why don't you just go in and get a baseball bat and beat your mother? I'm not recommending that, but it's almost the same thing. And there's probably some people that would do that, without even batting an eye, But it's just unbelievable that the disassociation and the disconnect now, and most of this modern society is all based on that, is creating the disconnect.
Yeah, the irony is the connection with Mother Earth is there. It's happening. It's happening now. You're breathing the air. You're immersed in her consciousness as a planetary being and the energetic patterns of that. I mean, this whole reality. I've been to other worlds, and each planetary system you go to has its own unique vibration. I mean, each ship you go onto has its own vibration. Each star system you go to has its own vibration. When I stood on Mars, I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't like Mars at all. And I'm sure you've heard there's a million people there already. Well, they wanted to make me one of them, and I was definitely let them know about my soul journey. So they had no power over me when it came to that. So really, it's what's going on around us is incredible. But getting back to the vibrational thing, each reality has its own vibration, and so just to give people a quick reminder as to how it is they came to be incarnated on Mother Earth. When we incarnate, we go into, let's say, we choose a reality, and that's what gravity is, by the way. It's the law of attraction. And so we gravitated to Mother Earth. And you've got all these scientists that are racking their brains trying to work out what the hell gravity is. It's just a law of attraction. And it's really simple, really, at the end of the day. And so we gravitated towards this galaxy. And what our essence does is, first of all, we need to calibrate ourselves or acclimatize ourselves to the vibrational energetic patterns of that galaxy that we are incarnating into. And so we enter the core of that galaxy, whichever one it is, because each galaxy is its own individual being. It's you. You're a galaxy, by the way, James, and everyone listening to this conversation is a galaxy. I just thought I'd remind them of that. And so we go into the core of the galaxy, and we merge and become one with the essence of the being that is that galaxy. And then what we do is we then go out through the rivers of life, if there's river arms like in our galaxy, and we flow towards the star system that we have chosen to incarnate into. So we go into the core of that star. So we've come into the core of our sun, and we've merged and become one with the being that is this solar system, this star system, which is our sun, which is really a masculine expression of God. I haven't quite gone into the structure of the universe yet.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we actually come to the core of the planet, and we merge and we become one with the core of the being that is that planet. And then our essence actually goes out to the surface or into wherever it is on that body that we choose to incarnate into our incarnational constructs. And that is the actual organic incarnation. That's the construct. I'm not talking about walk-ins, and I'm not talking about, ETs coming and planting you here. I'm actually talking about an organic incarnation. And, I'm not putting the other ones down. It's just they've chosen a different way to go about it. But the majority of the people here are organic incarnations. And so we come through the center of the galaxy, through the center of the sun, to the core of the earth, and out to our core essences here in our bodies. Because if you go into your heart, the first place you go to once you go into your heart is to the core of the earth. And then from there you journey to the core of the sun, and then from there you go out. And that's the pathway. And, so that's when you connect with your higher essence. Because each time you've merged, each time you've come, let's say you've merged with the solar system to acclimatize with the vibrational patterns of the solar system, a part of you remains in the sun. And then a lower aspect of you gets projected to the planet, because the planet is a lower vibration, right? And so we go to the core of the planet and then to the core of our incarnational aspect. So there's an aspect of each one of us in the core of Mother Earth. You know, we are one with her. It's just truly amazing.
So it seems like we're a multidimensional being, and just a smaller aspect of ourselves, you know, maybe our personality self and the body which we're identifying with is walking around here, but we have all these other aspects of ourselves, or multidimensional aspects, you know, one in the core, one in the sun, and one in, who knows, some other system, you know, some other star system.
Yeah, there's actually, you know, literally thousands of aspects of us scattered throughout the cosmos. That's the way we're doing it, because we're all galaxies and we're all star systems too, James, and we're all planets. So when people want to talk about oneness, when you really begin to understand the structure of things, and the next time you think we're all one, it is, I mean, okay, let me put it this way. As we're all co-creators already, so we're about to become universal creators. We would have had to have been a galaxy already, you know. We would have had to have been a star, and we would have had to have been a planet in order to be able to graduate. You know, you've got to have a good level of experience at this in your journey throughout this universe in order to be able to graduate and become a universal creator of light, because the construct of this universe is light. And so we have done that already. And so you're a galaxy, and I'm a star inside your galaxy. And I'm a galaxy, and you're a star inside my galaxy. And I'm a planet inside your galaxy and inside your star system. And somewhere along the line, you're a planet in mine. And I'm also incarnated inside, I've got an incarnational experience happening in your galaxy, because each galaxy is its own unique expression. And what we do is we go inside one another to learn how to be one another. We experience all these unique expressions of life and those set of experiences that each paradigm presents. It's quite incredible. We are so integrated. And when you think of all the billions of people that we're all stars, we're all planets, and we're all galaxies, and we're all inside one another, the next time anybody thinks of the concept of oneness, just think of how much love it takes to be so vastly integrated. It just boggles the mind.
Yeah, it does. You know, on a base level, some people will say, well, that's not Christian, or that's not Buddhism, or whatever else, but it is in its purest form, you know, because, you know, basically, if you really look at the big picture, you know, even Buddha said that, you know, basically said the whole universe is within. And when I had my near-death experience, I was really struggling, because I was moving up the vibration continuum, and I was meeting all these different aspects of myself. And I was going, wait a second, what is going on here? You know, this guy's saying he's me, and then I go up the next level, and this guy's saying, you know, we're one, you know, and then I go up to this highest level, and he says, you're my hands and feet, you know, on the earth, and you know, I'm going nuts with this, you know, having a full identity crisis meltdown, and finally I get to the highest level, and he goes, what are you worried about? You're all of it, you know.
Exactly.
He said the big picture, it's all you, and so I go, wait a sec, you know, and then you know, in Christian terms they talk about you must become born of the flesh, you know, before you can become Christ and things like that, and this is where the bravest of angels incarnate to come through, because we've got to go through this level, this aspect of God, this creation, or whatever you want to call it, this 3D program. We have to go through that and then start our journey back to own all the dimensions, all the different levels and dimensions of the source or God, or whatever name you want to give it. So it does tie into all the old teachings, but people just don't understand the cosmic side of it.
No, they don't. And a lot of the time, the way things were expressed back then were different to the way we look at things with our modern minds. And understand the way things were trying to be expressed, like wheels within wheels. A lot of people feel that was like a mechanical explanation of what these crafts were. Well, I have a different take on that. For me, a wheel within a wheel was a cycle within a cycle, because back then they didn't say, oh, these beings come from different dimensions and different star systems. the way they used to explain things back then was a life cycle within a life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these beings come from other life cycles, in other planes of existence. That's what they're actually explaining. And it's just, okay, that's my take on it, but if you actually try and get your mind to actually think like people used to think back then. I'll give you another example. When we see an animal and a person from, an indigenous person from way back, cutting the heart out of the animal and holding it up in the air, an academic person would, I'd say, interpret that as they're sacrificing the animal to appease their god. But when in my travels, and my travels back through time, and my interactions I've had with elders, that's actually what they do is they cut out the heart of the animal and they honour the spirit of the animal for sacrificing its life so that that man's family can eat and continue to survive in this level of reality. So you've got two vastly different takes on one picture.
Yeah,
and I know which one I resonate with.
Yeah, history has a way of doing that. We took a picture here. It's amazing. Actually, this monk took it from. He's a Taoist monk or practitioner from Japan, and he took a photograph of this being that comes here by the name of Ezekiel, which is an ascended version of Ezekiel, and it comes as just a bright golden white light. And so this huge light appears, and all of a sudden in the background you see this portal open up, and you look through it, and you see like the Dome of the Rock and Jerusalem in the ancient days. It was really, really crazy. You'd look at this photograph, and I've had other people look at it, and I thought about that, and I said, this is all going on at once. We're on this little timeline that we've chosen with a beginning and an ending if we identify with the physical body and whatever else is going on here. But on all these other levels are all still going on. And when we start identifying as a spirit, that we can go forward or backward in time and actually influence our past and create a different future, it seems like. It's quite interesting when you look at the big picture of this whole thing.
Yeah. The way I explain it in my presentations is I draw a circle, and I explain that as a life cycle, as I said before, a cycle within a cycle, and all we do is open it up, because the analogy I give is when you're off world and you look back on the Earth, she's a round ball, but when you come down onto the Earth, it's flat, and it's the same when you look at a life cycle from up above. It's a vortex. It's a vortex of light, actually. But when you go down inside that vortex, it opens up, and you actually experience life in a more linear fashion. So depending on your perspective, and when I was going up through the reality, through this universe, I saw a whole cosmic plane, billions and billions and billions of galaxies just shrink down into a tiny vortex of light. And I mean, from up there with one, little tiny spin of that vortex, which happened in less than a second of perception, equivalent to our time from up there, was eons and eons and eons and eons and eons of evolution down here in this cosmos we're inside of. And that was just absolutely amazing. And from that level of consciousness where you're looking down at this tiny little vortex of light, and then we actually project a smaller spark of ourselves down into that vortex. And then we experience the cosmos the way we're experiencing it in all different levels, because that sparked in fragments.
And the
other thing I wanted to share, James, was when I got to the very outskirts of this universe, because it is a finite. It's actually its potentiality is infinite, but currently the universe that we're inside of has a finite existence, and people go, well, no, the universe is infinite. Well, just stop and think about it for a moment. Universe, what does that actually mean? It just means one verse. It's one expression of light. So there's other universes out there, and what I got to see was out into if I'm going to use a label, I'll call it the omniverse, okay? And there was countless universes out there, and what I remembered, shall I say, was that each one of those universes is us. and that a spark of us has come inside this universe, because that's what we do. You know how before I mentioned about galaxies, that we're all galaxies and we go inside one another to learn how to be like one another, or to experience that expression of life. Well, that's what we do as universes too. And so this universe we're inside of is, the expression is life, the construct, is light, and the construct is light. But there was a whole multitude of universes out there, countless ones, and each one has a different construct. So life exists beyond light, and it was just phenomenal to know that. And then it was like, okay, so where does life begin and where does it end? And the reality is there's no beginning and there's no end.
Yeah.
You know, we always have been and we always will be. And so when you begin to contemplate this beyond the intellectual level, you just go crikey. It's just boom. Yeah. This realization bomb just goes off inside of you, and you go, that means I have never been born out of some God matrix construct. Holy crap. Pardon my expression. But when you realize that, then you go, I'm infinite, I'm immortal, I'm eternal, I always have been, and I always will be. That means nothing controls me. Mm-hmm. So there's not some God above me telling me what to do and where to go. Actually, what happens is we're just continually flowing. When we're one with life, we flow. There's this total awareness of everything that's going on and everywhere everyone is heading. And everybody just flows in this synchronistic harmony constantly. So it's only down into the bowels of this universe that you get these concepts of a God who points a finger and is authoritarian in nature and actually goes around controlling other people.
Yeah, we had a few of those on the planet, it seems like, in the past, and so thus we have the polarities in even Christianity, where some people say God is all loving, all forgiving, and then God is jealous, wrathful, genocidal tyrant. You know, it's like, which one is it? You know, if you know the real history, then you can understand what happened and where those images came from. But most people are running a religious program versus an enlightened program, you might say.
Yeah, exactly. Because people could say, look, you know, the tsunami, isn't that God being wrathful and vengeful? You know, isn't that Mother Earth being evil? She's killing people, you know? Yeah. And that to have that perspective is so limited. I mean, that's coming from a very limited perspective. And she's not. There's, you know, every person that experienced that tsunami and perished in that tsunami was their soul journey. And to understand that we have all chosen our own journeys here, and we're all having our individual experiences here. And that's very important to understand, very, very important, because it's very easy to get caught up in that emotional drama.
I agree. Yeah, I've always had this kind of funny vision about all these beings sitting around this beautiful, you know, crystalline light table and discussing, you know, somebody just coming back from Earth, and, you know, he's going, you're not going to believe this, but they actually, like, totally kill each other there. They destroy their environment. They pollute. It's what's really weird is they think they're the only ones in the universe, you know, and they're all sitting at this table like, no, they're going, I don't believe it. I don't believe that at all. And they're going, no, really, this really does exist. That these people actually kill their own kind, and they destroy the very platform for life that supports them. And now their scientists have gone total crazy, run amok, and you know, these other guys go, no, that's impossible. Nobody would do that. You know, they just wouldn't believe him. You know, and here's this guy trying to tell them about humans, and it's the same thing about humans trying to tell people here about UFOs. You know,
yeah, exactly.
It's met with the same thing, and they say, well, I'm going to go check it out. And so you go down here and you get caught, and you go, oh my God, this is true. How in the hell do I get out of here now? You know, and you know, I always thought about that. You look at the different perspectives, you know, from a higher level, you know, and you know, and then you go to the table and you go, look, these guys all gather together and they drink this weird intoxicating liquid and eat stuffed pig intestines, and they fight over control of this dead animal skin, and they try to inflict as much damage on each other as possible to move it over to these posts or whatever, you know, and they get paid billions of dollars for it, you know, and everybody's going, no way, that nobody would be doing that. So, and you see a whole civilization watching, you know, Monday Night Football on TV. So it's just kind of funny when you really look at it from a higher perspective. You know, it's like I can see how people would incarnate here just to check it out because they couldn't believe it. You know, they probably couldn't believe the stories they were told.
It's fascinating how the football is the shape of an egg and the Vesica Pisces, and the soccer ball or the other football is the shape of a dodecahedron. So I just think that's really fascinating that they're both fighting and kicking and knocking that around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and then getting
what a wonderful perspective. Yeah, what a wonderful perspective you just go. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. I say that in my talks too. I just go, look, you know, I put pictures up of the cosmos, and I go, can you believe, you know, billions and billions of stars just in one galaxy, and you know, and I go, see all those dots, those countless dots, they're all galaxies, you know, and someone's going to tell me that we're the only ones that exist in all of that. That's deluded. That's insane.
I know that new IRA, that telescope, they just found, 500, is it million or billion? I can't remember, 500 at least million planets in these Goldilocks orbits where they could support life just like Earth now because they couldn't see them before because they weren't stars, basically. And so now, now in our own little Milky Way universe or whatever, you know, galaxy, I mean, we've got 500 million planets that can support life, and then that's just this dimension, this third dimension that we're looking into, and we aren't even looking into the other dimensions or the other 500 billion galaxies out there. And
exactly.
I get people telling me that no, we're it. You know, I go, God, you've got a small God. You know, you know? And I said, you know, the universe is only as big as the mind that can perceive it. And if you believe that you're it, and this is, and you know, the sun revolves around the earth, then go for it. You know. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, pretty amazing, some of the stories that people come. We were talking today about that, like what kind of civilization would base its entire belief system of the whole civilization is in damned to eternal sin because a guy took a bite out of an apple.
Yeah.
You know? From that moment on, you're damned and you're in eternal sin and you are screwed. You know, it's just like I go, wait a second. You know, what's wrong with this picture? I didn't bite that apple. You know.
Yeah.
You know, why am I? You know, what about this little kid that was just born yesterday? You know, he didn't bite the apple or she didn't bite the apple. You know, like come on. You know, but it's almost humorous from a higher perspective. That's all you can do is it's like sad and humorous at the same time as to what's going on down here.
Yeah. And when we look at before you mentioned the different dimensional planes, how we're not even looking into that. Well, when the majority of my incarnation here is from Sirius, because we all have multiple energetic streams, and about 70% of my makeup in this life is actually from my Sirian aspect, and a good 20% chunk is from my Pleiadian aspect, and I've also got Orion essence coming in as well. They're the three main streams for me. Besides, you know, there's multiple other energetic streams, but just for my my own individual personality is mainly those three makeups. But you know, on Sirius, I come from the blue star, and that's a planet on a higher level. And you know, if people can look at stars and think they're all planets, well, that's just like you go up on another floor in a building, if you know what I mean, if I can use that as an analogy. So it's another platform of life on those levels, and it's a vastly different platform of life. It's a vastly different way of life, and we only have one single energetic center on those levels of life, and it's just an amazing. I really miss it, and what we look like is Akhenaten and Nefertiti. And that family, they were actually Syrian elders that came to the earth. And that's I have a very large cranium over on Sirius, and all of us have very large craniums on that particular vibratory level of life. And it's really just the way we just cruise through life. Life just flows. Your expression flows out, and there's this wonderful interaction of of life taking place, this interaction of everything around you. You know everything that is going on around you instantly. And I say to people, you know, for one moment of life in 5D, and, you know, because to me that's the lowest vibratory layer or level of heaven as far as I'm concerned, the one moment of life, the amount of processing an individual will do in one moment, if you got every single computer on this planet and created one massive bioorganic supercomputer, you would disintegrate that in an instant. It still wouldn't have anywhere near the capacity that you have as a being on that level of life to process what you process even in a given moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed a lot of people, in my own experience too, is I had an encounter with the Orion Council of Light. A woman by the name of Malia came in, and after that process, after that encounter, I was processing my past lives, one after another, in like maybe 5 or 10 second intervals, and getting the whole experience of that life and who I was, and you know, all the essence of that life again and again and again. It was just amazing seeing how much information that you can experience, and you know, the essence of all that and how that works when you're being held in that higher frequency.
Yeah. It's really hard to put words to it, isn't it, James?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, by any chance, I'm curious, have you hooked up with these felines yet from Sirius?
Felines in the way of more cat-like or more lion-like?
Well, there's two groups. On one level, I think they're more fifth dimensional, or they're and sixth dimensional both. I've seen they're more feline. They have a feline head to them. The higher beings, the highest level, they're more of a lion. They have like a segment type of thing. They have more of a lion. They're humanoids, but they have a lion head to them. And I've been working with them quite a bit lately, and they're just amazing beings. They're so loving and so and agile. You know, my God, you know, when they move, they're just mind blowing. They're just incredibly fast. You know, they've got 4-wheel drive if they want to. You know, and very sexy. That's what this monk said when he saw me. He goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "The love." He goes, "So holy, so holy." And then he took his hands and he goes, "Sexy body," you know, on these beings, which was real funny. But they've been coming in quite a bit lately, and more, they're protectors. You know, they're here to oversee and protect the land and make sure these low levels don't come in and start screwing with people.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad press about Syrian beings, and people don't realise that. You know, there's so many different levels to life. To throw a blanket over these entities, over life out there, is not a very clever thing to do. And, you know, I warn people about the Orion Nordics, one particular group. I named the planet called Diaspora, and they are the ones to really look out for. But, you know, Orion is an incredible place. It's massive. I have a long history with that place, and there's some really good beings there. And so not all Orion beings are evil. I mean, it's really important not to judge a book by its cover as well, because these particular Orion Nordics that I warned people about are not what they seem. They come across as quite angelic looking and very spiritually advanced, and you know, they're in communication with our governments behind the scenes, or the shadow government zone or realm, and they're not what they seem. And I'm constantly warning the shadow government and the ruling elite, and you know, I'm working really hard behind the scenes to bring about an awareness to these people. And I've had personal dealings with these beings, and not just in this one lifetime, but over a long period of time on a galactic level. And things are not what they seem with these entities. So I know that there's people that are going around the planet who are promoting these beings. I'm just sharing with you my opinion. And because I can only share my experiences and my knowledge and wisdom, and I'm not doing this as a campaign for any conspiratorial reasons whatsoever. I'm actually coming from my heart, and I'm just warning people that these beings are not what they proclaim to be.
Yeah,
They're very good at what they do.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about, and you don't have to answer this question, but it seems like, Billy Meyer had an encounter with these Nordics, and there's just so many holes and discrepancies in that encounter. Even with their information, they didn't tell him the truth several times, and I'm always wondered about that, because it just, although there was a lot of wisdom in there and a lot of stuff, there was just something wrong with this picture program, and I've always wondered if that might have been the group that either came in and took over or whatever, that happened with that group. But, curious to get your input on that.
Well, again, I'll just have to say it's the content that is being shared, and, you've seen something there. I will have to agree with you. I don't feel, the warm and fuzzies in my BS sort of heart zone meter. And, they always have to give elements of truth. Mm-hmm. There has to be, just like the story of Jesus. There's got to be truth in there somewhere, otherwise the human psyche won't latch onto it and won't sit comfortable with it. So, there's people saying that Jesus never existed. I don't agree with that. I know he walked the earth. I've experienced, a life that I had back then during that period of time, and I got to see a bit of what went on back then, and I can tell you that man did exist. He was had a very pointy nose, and his cheekbones stuck out, and his skin was quite leathery, and he wasn't this magnificent, beautiful being that everybody makes out to be, because life was pretty tough back then. And people just forget about the practicalities of life, Yeah. They keep wanting to stay with an ideology rather than the practicalities. And and he never wore a beard. He never had a beard because he was a rebel, and all wise men of the time had beards. And to share wisdom without a beard, that was a really big deal. That was people got to realise just how big a rebellious statement that was. That's really sticking it up the establishment in such a profound way. You just can't imagine. People just don't understand what big a deal that was. Just that very little symbolic thing that he did to be a man sharing life's wisdom and not to wear a beard was such an insult to the priesthoods. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a rule breaker.
And he's a rebel. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I was accused of that by the county here. They go, Mr. Gilliland, you're a rule breaker. And I said, well, so was Martin Luther King,
Yeah. Who made these silly rules to begin with?
Yeah, exactly. I go, you guys ever read a Constitution before? So, but anyway, unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd love to maybe get you on the show again some other future time, but we're out of time now. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you and connect with your works and websites or phone numbers or?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking that. I'm being inundated with emails. So first of all, I've got to apologise for people that send emails and send me some incredible. They share their experiences with me and ask for counsel. And I honestly am inundated. I get so many. So I apologise for those I don't get back to. And we've starting a new website called our-journey-home. So it's www.our-journey-home.com. And they can go, that's our new website. My old website is www.georgekavassilas, spelled Kavassilas, and that's .org. And there's a whole plethora of information and interviews and videos that are available to people. And we're pretty excited because we're heading off to England and Europe. We're doing Spain, England, Sweden, Slovenia, and Greece. So we're really excited about that coming up in a few weeks. And then we're heading over to Vancouver. And, maybe we might even pop down and see you.
Yeah, is that Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada, or Washington?
Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not too far away from there.
No, we're doing Vancouver and we're doing Toronto. And so there's a chance we might be able to have a cup of tea. That'd be lovely.
That would be awesome. Yeah, you have to come up and check this place out.
Oh, it'd be an honour. And I'll tell you what, we're really excited. There's an incredible amount of people who are just really resonating with what we're sharing, and I assure you, it's not about me. It's just about the content, and we just want to provide triggers for people to remember who and what we all are, and empower themselves. And that's the basic ethos of what we're about.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that. I know we've had very, very similar encounters and experiences, and seem to have the same soul experience as well on the different systems. But unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish I could keep going here, but I'll definitely be in touch with you, and maybe when you come out this way, we can set something up.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much, James. And once again, I want to thank you for having me on. I'm very, very deeply in gratitude for that. Thank you.
All right. Well, take care and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Prof. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, and I know as well as most of you, would love to have that be a 2-hour program, but maybe we'll bring George on for part 2 and see where we can go from there. But anyway, this is James Gilliland with World Puja signing off. Have a great evening. Good night.